There's been many ideas for third gadgets, but that would create an exhausting amount of work in the long run and cause a broader balancing problem. So I propose every brawler have an additional gadget choice based on their archetype. These third gadgets will be given upon unlocking level 7 to act as a placeholder in addition to being a third option. They're meant to be weaker than both gadgets but serve a purpose, also because ranked. There are 7 archetypes in Brawl Stars and I will suggest at least 2 ideas for each. I may rip some gadgets from a brawler to use for the entire archetype, and my idea is to give them a new gadget instead. Subscribe if you enjoy and let's get into it. If there's one thing assassins need, it's their super. So inspired by Edgar's first gadget, this will instantly give any assassin a third of their super. Giving a full super like Edgar's gadget is too busted, and giving a third of super is a good middle ground for brawlers like Miko, Mortis, and Leon. Just don't use this one on Sam or Stu. As an alternative option, especially for brawlers with slow reload speed, popping this gadget would instantly give you 2 ammo, which would be especially good for Miko and Lily. I have 4 ideas for tanks that will help them close the gap with opponents or increase general survivability. The first one is ripping from Hank's shield gadget, but instead of 3 seconds of 40%, it would be 30%. This would be helpful for every tank to push forward. However, it would not stack with other damage reduction like Buster's Kevlar Vest or Draco's super. It would instead take the higher value as priority. Option 2 focuses on the tank trait since that's the prized possession of tanks. It would increase how much super the tank trait gives you by 30% for 5 seconds. Probably would be busted if you were constantly being healed, and it does not affect the hypercharge charge rate. But speaking of healing, here's the third idea. This gadget would clear any negative effects and allow you to instantly start healing. Ironically, this would be a good rework to Poco's second gadget. And for a fourth gadget concept, it would rip Frank's second gadget from him. There are plenty of options, so I'm curious to know what you guys think. I should probably mention that all archetype gadgets will only have 2 uses compared to the typical 3 since they're not supposed to be too strong, but also provide more ability diversity. Piper is the perfect marksman in a way, having gadgets that allow both aggressive and passive play. So these are both automatic contenders in addition to Mandy's and Angelo's gadgets. However, I do have archetype gadgets I'd like to pitch. The first one is inspired by the clarinet from the SpongeBob event. This would break any walls in your way and boost the damage for that one shot, but nerf it to be half of your range. As for the alternative option, the marksman would escape by shooting the ground like Demoman from TF2 and knock back the opponent as much as Piper's hypercharge, at the cost of 50% of their remaining health, stunning opponents for 1 second as well. Damage dealers are such an absurdly broad class of brawlers that my concepts are derived from dealing as much damage as effectively as possible. So once again, we're taking inspiration from the SpongeBob event, from the notorious Chum Balls. If you have no idea what this is, first of all, good, and secondly, it allows your attacks to home into enemies for a few seconds. With that being said, this gadget would allow that, but with only 35% as much homing and no extended range, so auto aim isn't broken. This would last 4 seconds. As I said before, the point is to deal truckloads of damage. The second gadget would boost reload speed and attack damage by 25% for 5 seconds. This is an excellent option overall, even in preference to gadgets like Surges or Colts. Wait, I just destroyed Heist, didn't I? Most supports revolve around healing, but a good chunk of them give their team utility as well, such as Max and Ruffs. So for the healing side, I'm straight up taking Poco's. Yeah, but for the utility side, your entire team would charge super 20% faster for 5 seconds, regardless of distance, like Max's hypercharge. But if even that concept doesn't catch your interest, the third idea could be to rip off Meg's second gadget, which increases reload speed by 30%. However, its radius is terrible, so I'd increase it to 50%. Controllers come in many shapes and sizes, such as Will and Griff, surprisingly, both a thrower and damage dealer hybrid. So for the first gadget, I'd like to rip off M's, giving all controllers a get off me option. However, I would also want controllers to be able to control an area, since that's what they do best. The SpongeBob event tried to do that, but it didn't go too well, but it inspired me to make the main attack much more threatening. So maybe we can rip Sam's bad gadget from him, since it needs a rework anyways. This would make the next 3 attacks from controllers knock enemies back, but if it's still that bad, it can even deal additional damage, like an explosion on hit. The throwers are also very diverse, but I don't want to copy the pineapple from the SpongeBob event. I will provide a defensive and offensive option. I do want to give throwers a way to escape without copying Tick. It could be a small jump like Cordelius's. So if an Edgar jumps on you and you're behind a wall, you could jump to the other side of the wall or behind another wall. And if you want offense, then for the next 5 seconds your attack will unload, take less airtime, and increase damage all by 15%. It'll be easier to hit shots and your shots will be much more threatening. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing and commenting any of your archetype gadget ideas down below. Until next time.